The winter of 1983 was cruel, the kind of cold that bites through torn sleeves and worn-out shoes. The kind of cold that doesn't just chill your body, it reminds you how alone you really are. In a forgotten alley of Chicago, a 12-year-old boy named Eli Turner huddled near a half-broken dumpster, holding a damp cardboard box close to his chest. Inside that box were all he had left in the world: a tattered blanket, a photograph of his mother, and a rusted toy car his father gave him before disappearing years ago. Before I share what happened next, I'm curious, where are you watching from today? I love hearing where you guys are listening from. For 3 days, Eli hadn't eaten. He had begged, cried, even tried to steal a loaf of bread, but hunger was stronger than shame. That night, his trembling hands couldn't fight the wind anymore. He walked aimlessly through the dim streets until his numb fingers brushed against a wooden gate, painted green, with frost glistening on its edges. He didn't know why he stopped there. Maybe it was the faint golden light spilling from the house beyond. Maybe it was hope, that desperate, dying spark every lost soul carries. He raised his hand and knocked. Once. Twice. No answer. He waited. Teeth chattering, heart pounding. Then the door creaked open. A man appeared, tall, in his 40s, wearing a gray sweater and glasses. His name was Henry Caldwell, a local carpenter known for his quiet life and kind smile. When Henry's eyes met Eli's, something inside him softened instantly. The boy's lips were blue, his face streaked with dirt, and his small hand shook uncontrollably. "Please." "Sir," Eli stammered, I just need a place to stay. Just for tonight." Henry hesitated. He had lived alone since his wife's death 2 years earlier. The world had taught him to be careful. Strangers weren't always safe. But the boy's eyes, those eyes carried the same emptiness he once saw in himself. He stepped aside. "Come in." "Son." Inside, warmth wrapped around Eli like a forgotten dream. He sat near the fire, eyes wide as Henry placed a bowl of hot soup in front of him. "What's your name?" Henry asked gently. "Eli." "And where are your parents?" Eli stared at the fire. "Mama, she got sick. Then the landlord took our home. I don't know where Papa is." Henry nodded slowly. There were no more questions. That night, he gave Eli a bed, clean clothes, and something far rarer, safety. When Eli whispered, "Thank you," Henry smiled and replied softly, "Sometimes all a person needs is a door that opens." For the first time in months, Eli slept without fear. He didn't know that this moment, this small act of kindness, would echo through 4 decades of both their lives, because 40 years later, when Henry lay dying in a hospital bed, it would be that same poor boy, now a man, who would walk through the door to return the favor. The morning sunlight crept through the curtains, painting soft stripes of gold across the wooden floor. Eli blinked awake, unsure for a moment if it had all been a dream, the warmth, the food, the kindness. Then he heard the faint clatter of dishes from the kitchen and the smell of coffee and toast. It was real. Henry stood by the stove, humming quietly, flipping pancakes like it was the most ordinary morning in the world. "Morning, Eli," he said with a gentle smile. "You look better already." Eli sat shyly at the table. He hadn't been called by name in weeks. It sounded strange. "Beautiful." Almost. Henry poured syrup over a plate and slid it across the table. "Eat as much as you want. Your skin and bones." Eli hesitated, then whispered, "Why are you helping me?" Henry paused, the question settling in the silence. After a long moment, he said, "Because once someone helped me too." Eli looked up. Henry sighed, eyes distant. "When I was your age, I lost my parents in a car crash. I wandered for months before a stranger, an old woman, took me in. She told me something I never forgot. When life gives you warmth, share it before it fades." He smiled faintly. "I'm just passing it forward, son." Days turned into weeks. Henry became a father figure to Eli, patient, Quiet, steady Dot, he taught the boy how to sand wood. Carve furniture, fix broken things. Every piece of wood has a scar, Henry said once, guiding Eli's hand along a rough edge. You don't hide it. You shape around it. That's how you make something beautiful. Those words stuck to Eli's heart like glue dot at school. Other kids laughed at his secondhand clothes, but Eli didn't care anymore. He had a home, a place to belong. Sometimes he'd wake up at night, afraid it would all vanish, that he'd open his eyes and find himself back in the alley. But then he'd hear Henry's slow, steady breathing from the next room, and the fear would fade. A year passed, then 2. Eli grew stronger, smarter. More confident. One morning, Henry told him, "You're ready." For what? To stand on your own. Eli's heart sank. You're sending me away? Henry placed a hand on his shoulder. No, son. I'm setting you free. I found a family that wants to take you in, good people. You'll have a brother, a mother, a future. Eli looked down, tears welling up. But you're my family. Henry knelt, eyes glistening. And you'll always be mine. But you can't build a full life here with an old carpenter. You deserve more. Promise me one thing, Eli. Eli sniffed. Anything. Promise me that one day, when you see someone standing in the cold the way you once did, you'll open your door. The boy hugged him tightly, his small hands trembling. I promise. That afternoon, Eli left with the social worker. Henry stood on the porch, watching until the car disappeared down the snowy road. He didn't know if he'd ever see the boy again, but he did know this. Part of his own heart had gone with him. And for Eli, that promise became the compass of his life. The world changed. Time moved fast, faster than either of them could hold on to. Eli Turner grew into a man. He studied hard, worked harder, and eventually became one of Chicago's most respected heart surgeons, known for his steady hands and unshakable empathy. Whenever someone asked what drove him, he'd simply say, because once someone saved me. He never forgot Henry Caldwell. Not once. Every time snow fell, he'd remember that warm light, that wooden door, that voice saying, sometimes all a person needs is a door that opens. But life, with all its turns, had one more surprise waiting, one that would make their story come full circle. It was the winter of 2023, exactly 40 years since the night Eli had knocked on that green door. Outside, the city glittered with holiday lights. Families hurried through streets wrapped in scarves and laughter. But inside St. Mercy Hospital, the corridors smelled of disinfectant and quiet despair. Dr. Eli Turner, now 52, walked those halls with calm authority. His silver-streaked hair and tired eyes made him look older than his years, but his hands, though steady, miraculous hands, were still as precise as they'd been in his youth. He'd just finished a long surgery. Another life saved. Another promise silently kept. But as he removed his gloves, a nurse approached, her expression serious. Dr. Turner, we have a new patient in the emergency ward. Severe cardiac failure. He's asking for you specifically. Eli frowned. For me? What's his name? The nurse checked the clipboard. Henry Caldwell. Eli froze. The world seemed to tilt. The air left his lungs. Well, what did you say? Henry Caldwell, she repeated softly. He's in critical condition. Do you know him? Eli didn't answer. His heart was pounding too loud to speak. When Eli entered the room, he saw an old man lying weakly beneath the fluorescent light, tubes in his arms, oxygen mask trembling with each shallow breath. His hair had turned completely white, his face marked by deep wrinkles, but there was no mistaking those eyes. Kind, gentle, steady. Henry. Eli stepped closer, voice breaking. Henry, it's me, Eli. The old man's eyes fluttered open, focusing slowly. For a moment, confusion clouded them, and then recognition dawned. A smile tugged at the corners of his lips. Eli, my boy. Eli gripped his hand, tears welling up. You You found me. Henry's voice was faint, but full of warmth. Told you once. When life gives you warmth, share it. You did, didn't you? Eli laughed through tears. Every day. Because of you. The nurse stepped forward. Doctor, his condition is unstable. We need to prepare for surgery immediately. Eli turned to her, eyes fierce with determination. I'll do it. I'm taking his case. Hours later, in the sterile glow of the operating theater, Eli stood over the man who had once saved his life. The irony was overwhelming. 40 years ago, Henry had opened a door for a dying boy. Now that boy, grown into a man, was about to open one for him. The team worked in silence. Eli's hands moved with unmatched precision, but his heart trembled with emotion. Every heartbeat, every pulse on the monitor reminded him, this wasn't just a patient, this was family. After 5 grueling hours, the surgery ended. The monitors beeped steadily. Henry had made it through. Eli stepped out of the room, leaning against the wall, tears spilling down freely. For the first time in years, he let himself cry, not from sorrow, but from the overwhelming beauty of life coming full circle. When Henry woke the next morning, sunlight streamed through the blinds. Eli sat beside his bed, eyes red but smiling. You're going to be fine, Eli whispered. You've got a new heart valve, strong as ever. Henry smiled weakly. So, you became a doctor? Yes, Eli said softly. Because you believed in me. Henry's eyes glistened. I didn't save you that night, Eli. You saved yourself. I just opened the door. Eli shook his head. No, Henry. You gave me something no one else ever did. A reason to live. As the day faded, the two of them sat quietly, watching the snow fall outside the window, just as it had all those years ago. Henry chuckled faintly. Funny, isn't it? The boy who knocked on my door ends up saving my life. Eli smiled. That's what promises are for. Weeks passed, and Henry Caldwell's recovery became the quiet miracle of St. Mercy Hospital. The nurses adored him, an old carpenter with a soft voice and endless stories about the beauty of wood and life, but none visited him more than Dr. Eli Turner. Every evening, after rounds, Eli would stop by Henry's room. They'd sit together, talking for hours, as though trying to make up for the 40 years they had lost. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they sat in silence, but every moment mattered. One evening, Eli brought something wrapped in brown paper. Open it, he said, smiling. Henry unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a small hand-carved wooden plaque, polished smooth. The edges warm under his fingertips. Etched in the center were the words, "When life gives you warmth, share it before it fades." Henry traced the words, his lips trembling. You remembered. Eli smiled. How could I forget? Those words built my life, Henry. Every surgery I've done, every person I've helped. It all began with you. Henry's eyes filled with tears. You didn't just keep your promise, Eli. You made it your purpose. One morning, Henry wasn't in his bed. For a moment, Eli panicked, but the nurse handed him a folded note. He asked me to give this to you. Eli opened it. Heart racing. My dear Eli, if you're reading this, it means I've gone home, not to the house with the green door, but to the one beyond. Don't be sad. I've lived long enough to see the seed I planted grow into a forest. You gave my life meaning I didn't know I still had. When you were that little boy, I thought I was saving you. But in truth, you saved me too. You reminded me that love never gets old. It just changes shape. My only request, keep opening doors. Somewhere out there, another child is waiting in the cold. Henry Caldwell, the paper blurred as tears fell on the ink dot at Henry's funeral. Snow began to fall again, soft and white, like the night they first met. Eli stood alone by the grave, holding the same wooden plaque. He whispered, You opened the first door. Henry, I'll keep the others open. Then he placed the plaque against the tombstone. The wood gleamed faintly under the snow, as if absorbing one last touch of light. A month later, as Eli walked home late from the hospital, he heard a faint sound. Knock, knock. Knocked out, it came from the side alley near his gate. There, in the cold, stood a little girl, no older than 10, her coat torn, eyes wide and scared. "Sir," she whispered, I just need somewhere warm to stay. Just for tonight." For a moment, Eli couldn't move. The memory hit him like a wave, 40 years collapsing into one instant. He stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm. "Come in, sweetheart." He opened the door, and in that moment, the circle was complete. The camera would fade on the warm light spilling out into the snow, the girl stepping inside, and Eli closing the door, just as Henry had once done for him, because love, when shared, never ends. It simply returns again and again through the doors we dare to open. You're still here, and that means you cared enough to listen till the end, and that's rare these days. If this story hit home for you, please like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts. I read them all, and I value every word.